Absolutely, because if you think of like a rocket when it's going to its destination is off course 90% of the time,
Yeah.
and it just course corrects. We just have to remember there is no failure, only feedback. There are no losses, only lessons.
I
And
like
when we
that.
keep that in mind, when we keep that in mind, then we'll just see the end goal, knowing that we'll probably have to pivot and adjust along the way as expected, right? I always talk about Thomas Edison. It was like, wow, it took you 1,000 times, 10,000 times to come up with an incandescent light bulb. He's like, yeah, but now I know 999 or 9,999 ways of it, how it won't work, right?
Right.
And so he was so successful because he figured out enough ways that things wouldn't work, that now everything that he does works because he's learned from his mistakes so many times.
Welcome everybody back to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast. I have an awesome guy. I call him my guy, Chris, who is a speaker, entrepreneur, and an author of the book Financial Literacy 101 for college students. Definitely to make sure you get yourself a copy. Even if you need to pause it right now and go to Amazon or click the link in the show notes to go ahead on and get yourself a copy, because this is a book that I kind of wish I had when I was in high school, just getting into college, figuring out what I want to do. So Chris, I know in this book you talk a lot, but one of the things that really stuck out to me was when you first learned about money. Can you talk about that story a little bit?
Yeah, so my first relationship with money, or the first memory of money, I should say, is I don't know, I must have been 5 years old, maybe a little bit older than that, maybe 6. But I was going to the store with my dad and my 2 friends, and we were on the way to the convenience store. It was a little small shop, and my dad was getting ready to go inside, and he was like, "You can come on in if you want to," and so my friends were in the back. I was like, "Hey, I want some chips." They were like, "Sure." So I said, "Okay, let me get some chips." And so I walk into the store, and guess what I see? This big old red bag of Doritos. And I said, "Oh yeah." I think at the time, because this is the 80s, right? I'm an 80s baby. So this is when they were like white. The nacho cheese ones were like a white bag with a red top, and then it had the Doritos at the bottom. So I see the big bag of Doritos, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's going down." Right? I'm 5 years old. So then I said, "Okay, this is what I want." I grabbed the chips. And I said, "All right, I got the chips." And I walk out the store and walk back in the car. And I said, "Guess what, y'all? It's time to eat." So I don't know if you caught it, but there was one integral part that I missed. I forgot to pay for the chips, right? So here I am, this 5-year-old thief, going into the car, not understanding that you actually have to pay for things. This is a product, it costs money, and there's this thing called money that you have to pay for it. And so I learned in a disciplined way, my father, right?
in a CP way, right?
Yeah,
in a PC way. Right?
And my dad, born and raised in Jamaica, and my mom is too. So my whole family actually is from Jamaica. I'm first generation American. So my dad, he told me in a very parental Jamaican way. You don't do that, right? And so that was that part, right? But then on the flip side, I remember going to church with my grandmother, and she used to, every time that we were in church and there was, it's like the offering time, like they used to have this children's segment where they asked all the kids to come down to the front. They would talk about a biblical story, like a short story, and they would, at the end, ask the children to go around and take up offering, or you're supposed to bring your offering with you. So my grandmother would always give me $1, and then I'd put it in the offering plate for, that would actually benefit the private school that was connected to the church. So it was like giving back to, not just the church or giving back, but it was actually for a good benefit. So I had like 2 early memories of money. One where it's just like, okay, I need to understand that if there's something out there that has value and you need to pay money for it, that's exactly what you need to do, right? Don't steal. And then the other half is you actually could take your money and do good with it. Right. So I had those 2 first memories of money, and that pretty much set the trajectory for my life as far as understanding money, or at least had an imprint on the psychology of money that I had at a young age.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that when I was listening to your story at the time when I actually stole a sticker. You remember those hologram stickers when they first came out?
Oh yeah, I know the hologram. Yeah. Like, yeah, look what I got.
Yeah, look what I got. and put on your notebook and everything like that. Be the
Oh yeah,
last
oh
one to
yeah,
school.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like you walk around
yeah. That
with the
composition
Trapper
book.
Keeper and
Yeah,
the composition book, holograms. Yeah, I remember.
yeah. So I stole one of those. My mom and I guess you could say in a way, told me not to do that, and
Right, in a safety way, right?
yeah. Walk back to the store screaming and with a couple welts, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And,
all like it just magically appeared. It's like
yeah.
I don't know where these came from. Yeah, I know
Tell-
about that.
Tell the store clerk, yeah, I'm sorry, you know.
Yep, and that's the thing I forgot to mention. So when I had the chips, my dad had me come in, apologize to the store owner or the manager, the clerk, and then he gave me the money to actually pay for it. But yeah, that was a lesson learned that I never forgot. Right? So many years later, I still remember it, and you still remember them whoops from them stickers.
Yeah. So it gets you to now, like, you know, as we older outside of school and went through college and everything like that, because you also got student loans as well, but you're now trying to help people not get to that same process. And I doing some research, and I noticed that you're mentioning about how people were able to actually make money while in school using scholarships. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And there are a lot of ways where students actually get money while they're in school, right? Some people are like, okay, the only thing you're going to do is be emptying your pockets.
Right.
So the very first thing that we want to do is we want to stop or prevent students from ever having to take out a student loan. And we can get to that if we have time. But one of the ways that students could do, like some people see applying for scholarships as a full-time job. Right? Like that's an actual thing because not all scholarships adjust to tuition because there's scholarships, especially the internal scholarships that colleges and universities offer. So let's say that your tuition and fees is $5,000 a semester or $10,000 a year to make it easy. And let's just say that they were willing to give you up to $25,000 a year in scholarships from that school. But the thing is, they're not going to give you the full $25,000. They're only going to give you up to the amount of tuition and fees or up to the amount of tuition, right? Or let's say that you're in a state like Georgia where the Georgia Hope Scholarship, if you have a certain GPA or above, like a 3.0 and above at the current time, if you have a 3.0 and above, then the Hope Scholarship will pay for your tuition. Just the tuition, not the tuition and fees, not the housing, not all this other stuff. They'll just pay for the tuition based on wherever you go, if it's a public or in the university system of Georgia. And so it just means that if the tuition and fees is $8,000 a semester, Hope will cover that. If it's $2,000 a semester, Hope will only cover that. And so there are those type of scholarships. On the flip side, there are also scholarships that organizations and donors will just give you a flat amount. Right? So let's just say, for example, the Taco Bell Live My Scholarship, which is what I usually help a lot of my students apply for. And they'll apply for the scholarship. And let's say you get $25,000 for the year, right?
Yeah.
But it's only let's say it's only $5,000 a semester or $10,000 a year. You have $15,000 left over, right? Or let's just say for this purpose, you have $7,500 per semester left over. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, that $7,500 doesn't go back to the organization in this instance. You have what's called an overage check or a refund check that after all your bills and expenses are paid for, then that money goes to you. And most of the time it goes into a bank account that you designate. And now you can use that for future educational expenses, or you can just have it on reserve so that if you decided to study abroad or if you needed to get extra books or extra equipment for class or whatever you want to do, it go to your bank account, right?
Nice.
And so even things like transportation is one of those qualifiable cost of attendance expenses, right? They put a line item for cost of attendance called transportation, so you can actually get transportation to help you go to and from school. Right? Or housing, right? So the thing is, there are a lot of instances where students will get these max student loans and then they'll get way more than they need to go to class or to pay for school. And then they'll get a refund check, and it's really not a refund. They're just taking out more of the loan.
Right.
And then they'll go to Cancun and all these other trips and they'll be going crazy. And then it's like, okay, you only took $10,000 to go to school and graduate. And now you have a $57,000 student loan debt when you graduate, right?
Yeah.
And then because the barrier to entry or the barrier to entry to get those resources is small. It's like, okay, as long as you got a pulse, you're 18 and you're in college, you can get this money, right?
Yep.
And so that's one part. And then there are other different ways like passive income streams and things that's a lot of students already do that they're just not leveraging or knowing how to monetize, right? Like a lot
Yeah.
of them have YouTube channels. Like one of the students that I work with, she goes around and she does like different outfits and things like that, and says, "Okay, here's a tour of my camp. Here's a tour of my dorm room. Here's the way I'm going to decorate it." And she gets a lot of views from that, and she actually monetizes. She gets money each and every month just from posting the stuff she's already doing. And that's just something that she's already doing. It's not like she has to create something new, right?
Right.
It's something that she's already doing. It's just learning how to monetize it, and then you're actually generating money. Because most students are like, okay, I got to get a side hustle, or I got to get
Right.
this job. Like I got to cut hair, do nails, make wigs, and a lot of these students do a lot of these things. But the thing is, it takes away so much time from their studies, and so now they're making the quick, fast money, but now their grades are starting to drop, and then after a while, they're like, oh, I got to drop out. Or they get so good that their clientele number rises, and now they're getting so many clients because they're so good, they have no time for themselves and they have no time for their classes, right?
Yeah, one of my college buddies, because I think he got a job at HP when I was at Morgan as my undergrad, and I think he only had like a year left, and he was like, "I ain't coming back." He just went and then
See?
started his own company.
Yeah, he
He
was
was
just like,
like,
hey, I'm making this money. Like, what am I even doing, right?
Yep.
And then, and I guess looking at it from his perspective, there are a lot of students that go to school. I mean, they've done studies on this where it shows that there's a huge percentage of students who graduate with a certain major and then they get into a field that they have no degree in.
Yep.
Because they're a lot of times they're like, I got bills to pay, right?
Yeah. It's usually
Because
it.
I got bills to pay. Right? Like they got bills to pay. And they're just
Right.
like, I got to pay the piper, right? I got to pay these bills. And so now they're like, I don't care what I have. If I have to wait tables, if I have to do valet, if I have to do whatever it takes, they're not going to cut my lights off. I have to pay this rent. I have to pay this car note. I have to pay this insurance. And, a lot of students, they don't realize about all the bills they have to pay when they get out because everything was covered while they were in school for the most part. You have some students that are non-traditional or they live off campus. They have their apartment, their water, utilities, car note, and they're pretty used to what they have to do, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times they take the income from the leftover money from the refund check or to pay for those educational expenses like housing and transportation, and they just use a refund from the loans to pay for it. So now when they get a real job, then it's just like, oh, all this is on me? Like,
Yep.
I have to actually earn money to pay for this thing? And then that's where the paradigm shift has to happen because it's like, oh, there's a difference, right?
Yeah. So, because I know in your book, you're talking about like finding that money, right? And this is kind of what we're getting into. But you kind of touched on budgeting and also growing it. But I want to just break it down a little bit on how you have it set up here. So, to kind of set up the first one, which is finding the money, one of the stats that is out there right now is showing that $3.58 billion in Pell Grants went unclaimed. And that's just from the Pell Grant. And then also there's $100 million in scholarship money that was unclaimed. Now these are 2022 numbers, but I can only imagine where they're going to go at in the future. Like how we progressing on, are people really going to take advantage of this? So all this money is out there. How can we find that?
Great question. And you hit the nail on the head. And then the most important word you said is unclaimed, right? So it's not that people aren't putting forth the effort and getting denied or rejected. It's that they're not even putting the effort in the first place.
Mm.
And so one of the first things that I tell students and parents, right, because a lot of times you'll find the parents are the ones that are empowering the students, especially while they're still under their roof, to take these actions. So the two top things are applying for the FAFSA, regardless of your income, because there's some type of grants. I remember years ago when I was working in financial aid, they had this grant where if you did any type of community service, you would get this grant. The only thing is you just had to have a FAFSA file. So sometimes they're like, well, there's no need for me to do a FAFSA because I make too much income. No, one of the qualifiers that some scholarship donors do is they want to make sure you have a FAFSA file. Okay. And then the FAFSA does more than just check your income. Like you can't file your FAFSA without your tax information. And then if you're trying to, ride on the radar of tax, it's like, okay, you need to do your taxes, right? You need to do your FAFSA. But doing the FAFSA and then applying for scholarships, just like you just said. And Forbes actually put out an article saying that there was over $100 million of unclaimed scholarships each year. So it's not that they're not applying for it. I mean, it's not that they're not getting the scholarships. It's just that they're not applying for them. And so one of the reasons, playing devil's advocate, one of the reasons is that a lot of students tell me they just don't know where to find them. They don't know what to write when it comes to essays. They don't know the formula.
Yeah.
So if somebody teaches them the formula and shows them the steps on how to find the money, it increases the likelihood that they'll apply. It's a confidence thing. It's a confidence thing, and it's a numbers thing. So it's about volume, the amount, because you can't say, I applied for 5 scholarships and I didn't get nothing. You're like, okay.
Right. So what is the formula then?
Okay, so here it is. So we got the FAFSA out of the way. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You can literally go to FAFSA, FAFSA.gov, or just go to studentaid.gov. All of it will lead you right there. And it'll give you step-by-step instructions on what to do. Like, they changed it up this year, and so there are different things like the EFC, which used to stand for the Expected Family Contribution, that turned to the Student Aid Index. And so there are a couple differences on the calculations and how they're determining how much money to give you, right? And so that's one thing. Now, the other thing that we need to think about is the scholarship portion, okay? How do we find the scholarships? Or what I like to say is, how do we have the scholarships find you?
Yeah.
And so there's so many platforms out there that will tweak what it is that you're saying about yourself so that we can find the best scholarships for you. So it's not like you're just, on a wish, hope, and a prayer saying, hey, I hope I find. It's like a needle in a haystack, right? Now there's some sophisticated platforms where you can put in, your age, your GPA, your grade point average, where you're from, what you're interested in, your major. There's platforms like Scholarship Owl, My Scholly. So Scholly was actually founded by Christopher Gray and a couple other partners. And Christopher Gray, he grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. He was homeless at a lot of points in his during high school. And then he actually said, the way I can get out of this situation is if I go to college. So he applied for scholarships, and he got over $1.3 million in scholarships.
Nice.
$1.3 million in scholarships. So he can go to any college he wanted to. He decided to go to Drexel. He met his partners, and he says, I've cracked the code on finding scholarships because I found so many and I understand what it takes to get scholarships. Why don't I create a platform that can help other students get scholarships just like I did? So as a college student, he created a platform for other college students to find money just like how he did. And then he came up with Scholly. And then it caught so much buzz that a producer from Shark Tank found out about him, and then he went on Shark Tank. Yeah. And then Damon John and Lori, they both invested in Scholly, and the rest was history. And then they've been able to help students earn millions and millions and millions of dollars in scholarships over the years. And he just made an exit. So he made an exit and he sold the company to Sallie Mae of all organizations, right? So, at first I was like, why is he enemy?
Right.
Right. And I had to think about it. I was just like, I have no idea what Sallie Mae's mission is. I know they like to push student loans, but maybe they're trying to turn the corner and just say, hey, we want students to not have to take out loans. Hopefully it's like, we have the student loans if they need it so that they can get education. But what we're going to do is we're going to push the opportunities for students to apply for scholarships so they can get free money. And then as a backup, then we could get loans, right?
Well, on top of that, I mean, if you think about it, Sallie Mae also is a bank, which helps build out for housing. So they already know that you've been through this process. They already have your information. So they're going to know your life in the end. Pretty much where you live at, what you're purchasing, what school you've been to, what income, and follow your trajectory. So they can run the metrics on that and sell that off to the side. I'm just thinking about the vertical inside of the house of the industry.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what Sallie Mae started from, because during the Nixon era, Sallie Mae was known originally as SLMA. and SLMA stood for the Student Loan Marketing Association.
Oh.
Right. They're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
SLMA was a Student Loan Marketing Association because then they were partnering with private banks, but then it became too overwhelming. So then it was backed by the government. But then the SLMA ended up becoming not a government organization, but a own privatized company. And then they said, so SLMA, what we'll do instead of saying SLMA, we'll just call it Sally Mae. So yeah, those that are watching, check
Right.
it. Go do your research. Fact check me now. don't don't take my word for it.
Right.
Take a look. It's in the book, right? Read a Rainbow. Y'all know about that. But seriously, yeah. So it's just
Yeah.
like, wow, we're actually marketing student loans to people.
Yeah. So
That's
that
something
makes
that
sense
everybody
then.
needs to get. Yeah.
That makes sense now. Because now that they got it, all right, so we found a way to get the money. Now budget the money we talk about as far as you getting all this extra money now and how to spend it. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother topic, I'm sure. But if you got
Yes. I was about to say, let me say one more thing about finding the money, because even,
Yeah.
we talked about the platforms to find it. So you have Scholly, we have Scholarship Owl, we have bowl.org, Scholarship 360, Scholarships 360. Those are some of the top ones that I usually put students to. You have College Board, right? College
Yeah.
Board have their own scholarship platform. So now that we know how to have the scholarships find us, you need to apply for 10 times the amount you need in scholarships.
Okay.
Because they're going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships to apply for if you fill it out correctly. Now you have to apply for 10 times the amount you need per year. So let's say you need $30,000 for all your expenses to go to college. You need to apply for $300,000 worth of scholarships. Okay. Now that you have $300,000 worth of scholarships applied for, it's a numbers game. 90% of them could tell you no, and you got a 10% success rate and still have more than enough money to pay for school without loans. And that's just one aspect. The other aspect is you have to apply for at least 100 scholarships. And so you're like, well, how do I apply for 100 scholarships if I'm struggling to apply for
Do the
8?
one. Right.
Right, apply to do the one, right? And so because they're like, most of them take essays, and I don't want to apply for 100 essays. So here's the thing. So let's say it's, February 16th. So by April 16th, if you just apply for 2 scholarships a day, then that's 120 scholarships you've now applied for without batting an eye. Because it doesn't feel overwhelming. I think they look at that big number and it becomes overwhelming to them, so they don't ever take the first step. So now the last piece is, okay, well, do I have to write 100 different essays? No. You really only have to write 5. Okay? Once you have those 5, you put them in the Google Cloud. Put them in the cloud, put them in Google Drive, and now you have access to them no matter where you are. So you don't need your laptop. You don't need a flash drive. You just have to have access to your Google Drive. And you can get it from your phone. If your phone dead, you can go to a library or any place that has internet cafe, right? And you can have access to your Google Drive. And then you just copy and paste it based on what the organizations are asking. And here are the 5 different essays that you need. You need your Rags to Riches essay. So this is showing how you're showing your resilience. You're showing the donors and the organizations how you got that bounce back attitude. They want to feel confident that if they're going to give you this $50,000, you're not going to drop out of school next semester, right? You're not going to say life is too hard. I ain't got what it takes. Cut the camera.
Yep.
I'm done. You remember that? Show's over, right? Like, you're going to give up. But the thing is, if you've shown how you face some type of obstacle or challenge in your life, or have been through something, either ongoing or in one instance, and as a result, this is what you've been able to do to surpass that. It's like, despite this happening, or despite me going through these things, this is what I've become. This is what I've been able to do. And that just shows how you've been able to show resilience. And I always tell students, facts tell, stories sell. A lot of people hear that, but facts tell, stories sell. Don't write it like a boring English paper, right? Tell the story. Make it connecting to them emotionally. Have them put themselves in there. Like, if they can relate to it in some form or fashion, or they may have a loved one that they think about as they read your story, that's going to compel them to remind them of themselves. And they're like, that was once me. I want to donate to this student because I can see them going much further in life than I did, right?
Yeah.
Or they might have another loved one that's saying, oh, that's little Johnny. Oh, man, if Johnny was in this, I'd be able to do that. So now that you have that, that's one. Number 2 is your impact/leadership essay. How have you shown impact? How have you made an impact? And how have you shown leadership, within an organization, within your family, even at school, in organizations, or what type of impact do you plan on making in the world, right?
Right.
Because then it shows like, I want to, let's say there was an example where one guy, he won this, $50,000 scholarship. And he was just saying that, throughout his life, he had certain disabilities, like physical disabilities. And he says, I want to be the face of those with disabilities and let them know that despite the disabilities, you can have the ability to push forward and achieve all your dreams. Right. And so that's how he wants to make an impact, and he wants to be able to help those younger than him. Right. So that's an example. Now, the third thing is, what will you do with the money? If you have a clear-cut description of what you're going to do with the money, then organizations feel more confident to give you the money, because they're just like, okay, we give them this $20,000 or this $200. When you're applying for everything, that's the thing. When you get the scholarships on the platforms, filter it by deadline. I guarantee you're going to see some scholarships that have a deadline within the next week or two. Because sometimes students think that, oh, well, it's not a good time for me to apply because there are no scholarships out for me to apply for. No, there are scholarships around year round. There are always scholarships year round to apply for. So know what you're going to do with the money. Your career / major. What are you going to major in? Why are you going to major in it? And what are your career goals? And you can even tie impact with that. What is the impact that you plan on making in that industry? How are you going to shake things up and change? Because then that has you thinking about, I'm going to give back to this industry. I'm going to make this industry better because of what I'm going to add to it. Now, because the donors themselves, they're giving. They're doing something by paying it forward. So if you have something to where you go and do something at the YMCA or Boys and Girls Club, or you do something by giving back, or you go and help out, you go feed the homeless or those in need during certain parts of the year or on a weekly basis, like you're going to show that you're paying it forward just like the donors are paying it forward to you. And then the last thing is a wildcard essay. What's a current topic or something that's trending that a lot of people are talking about, right? Or something that you might see that a lot of law offices or personal injury law offices will want you to talk about driver safety. Yeah. So if you have your driver safety essay and with the importance of driving safe, now you can use that for probably 50 law firms that are asking for that same prompt. Nice. Or like artificial intelligence. How is that changing the way we do things now, right? So that's a buzzword that a lot of people are talking about. Now you have your essay done on AI. Once you have those 5 essays done, you put them in the cloud. Now all you have to do is just every time there's a prompt, copy, paste it, tweak it a little bit, and now you can actually, if you want to take it a step further, you can actually go to the donor site, look at their missions and values, and find out what about your life or your story aligns with the mission and values of that organization, right? Like you don't want to talk about, for leisure, what I like to keep balance is I like to go out hunting on the weekends. But then you're writing it to an animal protection agency and you're trying to get money for the scholarship. Like, right. You didn't even look at what they were about. Like, what are you doing? Right? And so it does take a little bit of due diligence just to take a quick look and to see how your values align. But if you don't have time to look at that, at least you could just copy and paste. And then without the wildcard essay, so organizations are either going to ask for one or a combination of any of those essays, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're doing like a super duper Avengers essay is like what I like to call it. I just made that up. But a super duper Avengers essay, then you could combine the 4 into one essay, and then that's going to be your cookie cutter universal essay, where if you just like, if I want to hit them with everything, boom, let me hit them with a hook, compel them, and tell them my story, why I need the money, what I plan to do with my career, how I plan to make an impact, and then what my rags to riches story is, how I've shown resilience, and despite what I've been through, this is what I plan on doing in my life. Now you have the formula to increase the odds of getting the scholarships. So first of all, most people aren't applying for scholarships, so that increases the odds. And number 2, now you put yourself in a better position to receive scholarships. And along the way, you're just going to tweak that until it becomes so polished. And that's what me and my team actually help students do. And it's just been a rewarding feeling when the students come back and they say, hey, I just got a full ride, or I just got $100,000 in scholarship. I just got $72,000 scholarship to this school. And then it not only is it rewarding for them and for me, but it validates what I'm doing, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like, okay, what I'm saying and what I'm teaching works, Yeah. And that's all people want to know. Like, you could be talking to you blue in the face, but if you ain't got no results, then people gonna be like, all right. But where's that cap at?
A lot of people don't even want to don't want to be the first one either. So it's always tough, especially in our, in our spaces when it comes to financial, but also in the community that we grew up in. It's like, we shady all the time because you never know. Somebody else try to out to get you, but really just take time out to do the investigation and really invest in yourself. And I think this is one of the episodes that I had to say that people should definitely save and go back and watch this again, because I mean, granted, you might write those 5 for scholarships. I mean, as me, I'm trying to become a speaker. I'm using those same exact tactics. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta come up with these stories. Like, hey, why should we choose you to speak at our event? And then I have to come up with my story.
Yes.
And same thing for grants, like for the business
Yes,
grants.
yes.
You got to do the same exact thing.
Absolutely,
So
you
it
hit the
doesn't
nail
matter.
on the head.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's the thing. Those skills are transferable, and you can use them in all types of areas in your life. It's not just for scholarships,
Yeah.
but like you said, proposals and business ideas and speech ideas and partnerships. Like it crosses over into so many different areas of your life, and it's also showing that when you do the right activities over time, you end up reaping the harvest. You
Yeah.
end up getting what you've been planning for so long. It's just like, you sow a seed, but you reap the harvest later.
Well,
And so, yeah, go ahead.
But it was going back to, because I like that analogy mostly because it takes a different skill to plant the seed, but it also takes a whole nother skill to harvest the seeds. Because it's like, and the beauty of nature is that one seed can produce many.
Yes,
But
yes,
you know what I'm
yes. Say
saying?
that
So-
again. Say that again. One seed can
one
do
seed
what?
produce many, and because it could produce many, think about it like that investment. So it took a lot of time to write those essays because some people never written them before. But as soon as they get it, when they start planting those seeds or planting the essays out to those different things, they plant them into so many different pots of soil,
Yeah.
and they reaping all the money at this point. So now we're talking to the harvest side of the house, which is budgeting. Now you got all
Yes.
this money.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with it?
Right.
So I'm
Right.
sorry, I'm turning it back. I got you.
Yeah. So now we're talking about budgeting the money, budgeting / managing the money. And so I take 2 approaches with this, because sometimes, even though when I focus on the college student, a lot of parents are like, hey, I need this book too. Like, this thing got some good stuff that I can use, right? And so one of the things, let's start with the college students. So when students are in college, typically if they're living on campus, they don't have all these other real world expenses, right? And so I have them come up with a college budget, and then I come up with an after college budget, right? And so this is during that stage, especially like if they're not getting ready to graduate next semester, but early on in their college career, I just said, if you had a magic wand and you could paint the perfect lifestyle for yourself, what kind of house would you want? What kind of car would you like to drive? How often would you like to travel? What would you like to do? What would you want your life's experience to be? Because that can vary from person to person. But then it gets them to dream. And now the more crystallized that vision is, or those goals are, now they can actually put a cost to it. I was like, okay, go to bankrate.com or any of these sites where you can figure out how much is it for a mortgage based on this percentage, right? Based on this interest rate, and how much is it going to be per month, with the PITI, principal, insurance, taxes, and interest, right?
Yep.
And so now that you have those things, how much is it actually going to really cost you per month, or over the term of the loan? How much is it going to cost you? Now, for this $1.2 million house, you're like, okay, it's going to cost me this much per month. Okay. Now, if I want this car, how much is it going to cost for that note, right? And now you're breaking it down. If you have an annual cost, you could divide it by 12, and now you have a monthly cost of your lifestyle. Okay. And so now you're like, okay, well, based on the job that I'm going for, this is how much I'm going to earn. And this is my dream lifestyle, and this is how much it's going to cost. So most of the time there's a disconnect. And then that's when we talk about, okay, well, have you considered, developing a digital product, or, developing something like that? And then if you have a price on that, how many of those would you need to sell a day on average to be able to have this lifestyle? And so the thing is, then I have them start thinking outside the box, like, okay, well, if you didn't have the job, how many of these would you have to sell? And it's just like, would you have a premium product with a higher cost, right? Or would you have, a lower tiered product where it's just like you would have to sell more in volume? So like, what would you do? And I just have them think outside the box with that portion. But if they had the job and it was only going to be the job, then I said, okay, well, let's think about what your lifestyle would be with this type of salary, minus all the taxes and insurance. And then, so I love Tiffany Aliche, the Budgetnista. I love
Yep.
her definition of a budget. It's just like, okay, a budget is a written plan of what your money is doing, or a written plan of what you're going to do with your money, right? And that's a simple and amazing definition. So I always tell everybody that definition, because I haven't heard anybody come up with a better definition. So shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Tiff. She's a rock star and a genius. So, and then she's a master budgeter, right? So
is,
she's
yeah,
like,
that's the thing, right.
I don't reinvent the wheel, right? Like, get good with money, Tiffany Aliche, that solves all your budgeting needs. And so a lot of the stuff I pull from there, instead of just trying to say, all right, well, let me come up with something different and better. No, like, why reinvent the wheel if it's something that's proven that works? And all I do is make sure I give her the proper credit anytime I teach somebody any of these concepts, right? And so she breaks down her budget, and it's just like, okay, you have your basic needs, right? You have your basic needs, you have your B, your UB, your utility bills and things like that, and then you have your C. Everything else is what you do with your cash, which can fluctuate. Your UB are usually the things that fluctuate with your utilities based on usage, and then your B. Those are your basic needs, right? Like if you had to be in what she calls a noodle budget, right? Like if you had to eat ramen noodles all day, like this is what you would do. And then when you can break things down in that way, now you can focus on your priorities, your likes and wants and needs, etc. And then it's an easy way. So it's not really down to the penny, so to speak. It's like you have some flexibility and some freedom within those parameters to paint out the lifestyle that you want, or paint out the vision and how much that lifestyle is actually going to cost, and put numbers toward it. Now you can have goals and you can have a lifestyle to where you fit things in. One of the things I like to do is I like to do the 70-20-10, and which isn't the most popular.
Yeah, I like that budget.
Okay, you like that. Exactly. Because it's simple. It's just like, okay, so usually I'll start off and I'll combine two principles together, but the numbers still work out the same. So I start with the pay yourself first method, right? The richest man in Babylon with the 10-10-10, right? Or then same thing like Robert Kiyosaki, he does the 3 piggy banks, which is essentially the same thing as the 10-10-10, where you have your investing, your saving, and your charity, right? And then you just take, if you have $1,000, $100 goes to charity or tithing, right? And $100 goes towards saving, and $100 goes towards investing, right?
Yep.
And then so now in the 70-20-10, you got 20%. They link together the saving and investing in the 20, and then the 10 is for the tithing and the charity. So you still have those 3, and then you have the 70. What's left? The 70 is what takes care of all your bills, needs, and necessities, right? Now here's another thing that I do, that I help, college or anybody that I'm showing this to. I said, now all your expenses and necessities, all your living expenses need to be under 70%. So if you have $1,000 coming in, $700 needs to take care of that. But I said, but let's say you're the type that likes to enjoy themselves, likes to just, have money where they're just like, I'm just going to spend it and have fun. I said, then you can actually take 20% from that 70, and that could be what I call your play money. Right? So it's just like you're working hard, you're organizing, and then it's just like your $20, that's just your play money just to enjoy yourself. Not saying that you have to spend the whole 20, but then you can be free to just say, you know what? This is just my play money, right? This is my treat myself, and even though that could be a line item itself, but this is just your play money, right? Your irresponsible money.
Yeah, irresponsible. So back in our day, it was a club of money. But
the club money, right? It's just like, okay, where we about to turn up at this weekend, right?
Yep.
And so now, if you take that 20%, then that 70% now becomes 50%. So now your living expenses, everything has to be under that. So here's 2 things you could do. Either cut a lot of those unnecessary bills that you have down to 50%, or increase your income so that you can still maintain the same lifestyle and you're still within that 50%. So either way, either increase your income or cut to make it so that you're still within that 50%. Because as long as everything is in those main categories, then you're good. But now you have 2 things you could do. Either paint the vision of where you want to do, what you want to do, and the lifestyle you want to have. Limitless, right? I don't try to put limit. I like dream. Like, what would you do?
Dream big. Yeah.
Dream big. And now that you have it, now you know the way and the roadmap to get there outside of your job. And then there's this guy named Earl. I guess we could talk about it and grow the money. But anyway, yeah. So that's it when it comes to budgeting.
That's cool. Yeah, because I do like it. One of the things that I try to talk about, and I heard it first from Dave Ramsey, but gotta give him his props. I heard it from him first. Was that when you're looking for housing, try to keep your housing, like the actual rent or mortgage or whatever it is, at that 25%. And I heard it from him, but also heard it from somebody else. And I cannot recall who it was. Like, if you have 2 incomes, you want to make sure that your housing is actually enough where the person that makes the least amount of money can handle the housing, because the person that makes the most, it's easy for them in case anything happens to one or the other. And I just wanted to throw that tidbit in there.
No, that's good. I never heard that, but that makes perfect sense because, I know you know my story, but I was in my 20s at a corporate job, almost at six figures, and, the day after my oldest son is born, he's 15 now, but the day after my oldest son was born, my supervisor called me and she said, "Congratulations on your baby boy, but we got to let you go."
That part right there, I was like, I had to put the book down. I was like, that's crazy.
Gut punch. Talk about gut punch, right? My wife wasn't working. I'm not working now. And then 2 months after that, losing everything in an apartment fire. So it wasn't just the blow of me losing the job, and I had everything in control, right?
Yeah.
And then just being hit with the fire and no renter's insurance. I didn't want to pay the extra $12 to $15 a month for the voluntary renter's insurance at the apartment complex I stayed in. They were like, because it wasn't mandatory at the time. When you have, home insurance and you have to cover certain things, but apartment, they're like, okay, well, here it is if you want it, at the time. And I didn't have it. And so lost everything because I was spending all my money. I didn't know about emergency savings. So yeah, even while we're on the budget. So now we're looking at the saving, right? And we're talking about 10% going into savings. So it's just like, okay, do I just continue to save for the rest of my life? No. So the reason is because you'll only want to put money in your savings until you have at least a year's worth of your expenses, monthly expenses in an account, right? So it's just like whatever your monthly expenses are, multiply that times 12. So let's just say if it's $3,000 for your monthly expenses, multiply it times 12, $36,000, right? Now you have $36,000 in your savings. Now you're like, okay, well, if I have, and here's a smart thing to do, especially if you don't have the discipline to take it out of your account and put in another one. If you work for a company, just have payroll, go to HR, and have them put it in a different account, a different savings account automatically when you get paid. That way you don't have to take it out yourself. It's automatically just going in there. Better yet, have it go to a high yield savings account or credit union or something like that, because there's this thing called inflation. And there's a reason why I say stop it after a year. Inflation grows on average, and this is like even a few years ago, which was the average, was 2%, right? Yep. And now, in the last few years, it spiked up to like 6 or 8, and like a couple years ago, right? And it was getting up there. It's like, wow, I would never thought that inflation would get to this amount, right? But on average, it's 2%. But then when you're looking at traditional or the most common savings account, is usually 0.001%. 0.001, not 1, 0.001.
Oh, come on, not the 00. At least I saw at least 01. 001?
001.
What?
Most of them. 0.001. If it's gone up now, you might get to 0.01.
Right, that was like.
But still, it's not even 1%. That's the point we're trying to bring home.
Right,
you got something growing at 2%, and it's not even 1%. It's point. Let's give them that. Right. 0.01. That's not even. That's 0.1%.
It is. It is sad. It's really sad though. Yes. But yet they investing it and taking it to do whatever they want to. We're like, oh yeah, we'll give you some chump change for giving us free money to go invest on doing whatever we want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. They're taking your money, which is coming at a loss to you over time, and they're investing it to make it grow their company, to make it grow their organization, grow their bank. And so now you're like, okay, well, after I have a year's worth of savings, what do I do with the rest? Now you take that 10%. You don't say, oh, now I can add more to my play money. No, you take that 10% of that money you were saving each month and start putting into the investment account. Now, instead of just investing 10%, now you're investing 20%. Yeah. And then now your money's going to grow exponentially. I heard one guy last week, I was listening to an interview, and he saves like 55% of his income or something like that.
Nice.
And then so he the way he started was he just started with like maybe 5% or 7%. And then every month he just added 1%.
Nice. Okay.
So let's just say you're starting at 10. Then by the end of the year, if you're starting from January, then by the next January, you're going to be at 22% saved. Right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to be at 34% saved in the following year. And it's just like every year, because all you're doing is just adding 1%, because when you're doing incrementally like that, your lifestyle is automatically going to adjust. You're not even going to recognize the changes because you're just incrementally changing, right?
But you will feel it though. I
Oh
can
yeah,
tell you that
you'll
much
feel
'cause of
it.
that.
You'll feel it, but
You'll
it's
feel
not
it,
going to be
right.
a drastic like going from 0 to saving 15% in
Correct.
savings, right? Like it's an incremental change. It's like, ooh, okay, I felt that. A
Right.
little jab. You know, it ain't like a
Readjust a little bit.
1-2. You know what I mean? Gut punch, but you know, you will feel, it, especially if your income's not changing, right?
Yeah.
The goal is hopefully your income is actually increasing by putting value into yourself and other things to where it's like you're learning different leverage ways to make income, or, you know, at a rate where now you're putting more into your investment accounts, and now your income is actually growing. But yeah, I did wanted to mention that so that after you get to that threshold of having a year's worth of your emergency fund and savings, take that money now and put it into your investments. That 10%. So 10, take 10%. Now put into your investments to make 20% investments each month.
And I do want to add on before we start talking about other ways to kind of grow some money and like different ways that's nice and easy for college students, is that when you guys are out there getting these scholarships, it actually makes me want to go back to school because it's like the scholarships are not taxed. So if you're already making $300,000 a year just in scholarships, they are not taxed.
Right.
So this is coming directly from TurboTax, who lobbied to keep going. But honestly, the government could do our own taxes. But I ain't going to keep. That's a whole nother rant session.
That's a whole nother rant.
So upset. Yeah. But they say here to qualify, in order for it to be not taxed, you have to be a degree-seeking candidate, attend a qualified educational institution. It does not exceed a qualified education expenses. Well, so I guess maybe some of the overages, I guess maybe. It isn't designated for other non-qualified purchases such as room and board, and it doesn't represent payment for work or services you perform. So in other words, if you're not physically doing the work, it's free money.
Yes.
And I think Warren Buffett talked about that. He was like, yeah, every time you physically doing something, you're paying more in taxes. So the less you do, the more you keep.
Yeah.
That's
Say
the
that
rule
again.
of the game. The
Yeah,
less
that's the
you
game.
The more
That's
you
the
keep.
post.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
man, you hit the nail on the head. And then even one of the things you said, even when it comes to housing, because this is one thing that some people ask is like, well, okay, so I could just spend an unlimited amount on my housing when I get the refund for it. But if scholarships are going specifically to your college expenses and they qualify it like that, then if you're getting off-campus housing, it has to match the amount that the institution itself would charge. So let's say that the institution would charge, $8,000 a semester, right? And over that 4-month period. Okay. So that means that your rent, if you're living off that 4-month period, would need to be 2,468. It need to be $8,000 or $2,000 a month, right?
Right.
It would just need to be equivalent. Other than that, everything over, you'd have to be, charged with, or they just wouldn't give it to you. So that's just another little sidebar, as far as how that will work. Cause you're like, oh, well, I could just, I could live in,
right?
give me a little, $10,000 a month, loft and be good, It's like, but yeah.
Because he also talked about because I have a lot of people that are in the military or some retired veterans that actually watch this show, and you talked about the GI Bill a little bit in here, because I know I was like really little bit, so I was like, man, let me talk to somebody right quick to kind of get some more information. So
yeah, and that was and matter of fact, in all transparency, it's like you helped me a lot with that, because even when I had in the book and you read it, you were just like, oh man, like, did you know about this and this? And it had me go back, because I just really wanted to plant the seed to let them know there are resources out there for the GI Bill. So if you're in the military, have parents or spouses that were in the military, then they have educational benefits or they have resources to help you pay for your college education. And I just kind of planted the seed and told them the terms so they could find more details. But when you were hitting me with the I was like, okay, man, let's go, man. No, because it's like, some people get real insecure and they be like, oh, you can't tell me none or whatever. But this is like, it only helps us get better, right? Like iron sharpens iron. So it's like, when you share that with me, now when I go out to speak, it's just like, okay, I know a little bit more, based on what you were able to share and based on what you ask others who are in that space,
Yeah, because I was talking to the Navy side of the house about this, because I was like, how does the GI thing works? And they was like, well, a couple of them found out the hard way was that their recruiter is the most important piece and the key piece for that GI Bill, because if that person doesn't tell them about their scholarships or what is possible, or they sign up for the education tuition process, then they, for the rest of the time they in their military career, cannot apply for it. At least that's what they were telling me.
No,
So
that's
it
good
could change.
information. Yeah. And a lot of people wouldn't know that because it's like some of that fine print stuff. It's just like, yeah, here go the basics, but better read this fine print line. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't even know about that.
You gotta
So
ask
that's
for
huge.
it. So on here they have something called, pretty much just check the job because it changes each time. So this right here is mostly for the Navy side that I wrote in here. I still got to talk to the Air Force and the Marines and also the Space Force and see how they actually operate. But obviously,
Yeah, but a lot of those things probably transfer over, even though that's specific for Navy, it probably has a similar line item or something that's real specific. So yeah, so whatever branch you're in or whatever branch your parent or whoever was in, check with the specifics on the current terms and conditions and policies for that, because like you said, it's always changing. Like even the FAFSA after all these years is changing again, right? And so it's just like, what are we doing now? Because depending on when you're watching this, like they put a big pause on it where everybody was like, okay, December 1st, everybody better go in there and apply. And on December 1st, what happened? Nothing. They were like, all right, December 31st, we're going to stay up till midnight and this was going to happen. We're going to apply. And then only a few people were able to get in. And now they're putting a pause and saying, okay, in March, we're going to be able to do it this time and open it back up. And it's like, come on, people. And so I've been just hesitant to, I tell people in general, apply for the FAFSA whenever you can, but I'm waiting until they work the kinks out, right?
Okay.
I said, in the meantime, apply for these scholarships, okay?
Yeah.
Apply for these scholarships. Now, if you can at least get the application started and get something submitted, even if you have to change it, then get that done. That way, if you have scholarships that require the FAFSA, you already have one on file. And that's really the main reason why I'm kind of pushing the FAFSA to just get it done ASAP, because it's first come, first serve in a lot of instances.
Definitely. All right. So we gotta get to this third book. we're going line by your book. I'm sure you figured that already.
Okay. I was like, I love it, man. I talk about this all day, man.
Right. So we're gonna talk about growing that money. So now that we found the money, we budgeted it. What are some low ways that people can actually kind of grow their money while they're in college?
Oh man, there's so many ways. Like a lot of times people overlook what they actually have inside themselves. One easy way to just take a self inventory is take a sheet of paper, put a line down the middle, and on one column put everything that you like to do, right? And then on the other line say everything that you're good at. Because sometimes a lot of times those things can be different, right? You can be real good at, making paper airplanes, but do you like to make paper airplanes? Maybe not, right? Or you might be good at doing math equations in your head, but do you like to do it? No, right? Or you might love to play the piano, but you might not be that great, right? And so there's some things, though, that cross both lines where it's actually you're really good at it and you like to do it. And that's where we call the prolific zone. And then once you find that, let's say there's people that are always coming to you for advice. And this could be any age, because there are a lot of young people that are really good at something and they could just talk about it all day, all night. Right?
Can it be that third column? That third column be like, what do people actually come to you for?
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So now we can add that. Matter of fact, I'm going to start saying that now. And then the third column is what do other people... Ooh, okay, I got you. All right. Next check where I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's a door. Let me make sure I send you your commission. All right. I'm going to cash app you. I'll be like, you know what this is, bro. And so, I like that. Yeah. I'm taking that. Okay, cool. And it's like, and what do other people come to you for? And so now when you find all three of those, now you have something that you're great at, something that you love to do, and something that's valuable to other people. Something that's of value to other people. And with those three combined, that's something that could easily be monetized. Now it's just all about positioning. One of the things I have people do, especially the students, is I have them create like some type of low content book or no content book, like a journal, right? A lot of students are always journaling, or they have planners and things that they like to write in. Matter of fact, one student that I was working with, she's still working on it, and I'm about to work with somebody else if she don't want to do it. So this is up for grabs, right? So let's say that you're a biology student, right? You're a college student. And then you can create a whole business model after this, right? You're a college student, and then you have a college day planner. But the thing is, if you're a biology student, a lot of things are sometimes missing out of that planner. It doesn't have the periodic table of elements. It doesn't have a lot of the common equations that you use. It doesn't have certain things that biology majors wish that were in there, right? And then it could be certain dates and certain key things during the year that they need to know. Or it could be information about, student biology organizations and national and state level organizations. It could be a lot of things in the planner as a reference, right?
Yeah.
And then you can put a cover on it that a lot of biology students will like because it can have symbols like microscope and the DNA strands, and they can have all these cool things that biology students say, this belongs to me, right?
Yeah.
But now you can come up with an idea, right? You can go to a website like BookBolt or any of these type of websites that can design it for you so you don't have to do it yourself. Or if you want to do it from scratch, have somebody on Canva design it for you. Like when I did my workbook, I just went through my book, put the lines, got the images from Pexels, the royalty-free images from Pexels and the graphics, and I had somebody create it, and then it was kind of blocky. They did it in Canva, and it was kind of blocky, but I only paid like $60 for it. And then I found somebody that was a whiz, and they did it they did an amazing job, right?
Nice.
But the thing is, instead of me, because when I went through the book, I was just going to Microsoft Word and pulling out the questions and then just making dashes for the lines. Then I gave it to the original person, and then they were like, okay, I'll make it up. And they put the colors and how they wanted it to look. Then I took that concept and then went to the one that was Wiz, and then she only charged me, I think, like $200, right?
Okay.
So then I paid her to make it like really nice. She would have charged me much more if I would have came to her with no pictures, no format, and then the original Word document. So I was like, well, let me give her the assist, right? Let me give her that assist so that now it's more leverage to me to where I don't have to pay the premium pricing that you normally would have charged if she had to create everything in the dark. She was like, oh, you just want me to make this look better, right?
Right.
And so
going back to that's a life hack right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Leverage you can afford at the time. And like, all right.
Hey.
And then give them that 80%. Like, hey,
exactly.
Sprinkle.
Right. Just add a little razzle dazzle to it. That's all I need. Just some razzle dazzle.
Right.
And then the thing is, the book is already created, and the workbook was birthed out of a guy who worked at a college, and he was just like, hey, Chris, I can't pay for books, but I could pay for workbooks and curriculums. I said, say less. And then I just got to work, and I said, oh, I didn't know that I have something. The hard work is already done. The book is already done, right?
Yeah.
And so now I just had to pull from that, right? And so what I walk students through is the process of self-publishing, right? And getting something on Amazon. So now they have their biology book. They have their biology. Let's go. Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Let's go.
That's what
they
I
have. Yeah, and they have their biology book. Now, biology students from all around the world that are in university are going to want to get this day planner, right? Going to want to get this day planner because they have use for it, right? And let's just say you sell it for $20, right? Or let's just say that you can make $20 from it, right?
Yeah.
You sell 10 of those a day, right? 10 of those a day, and on a low end to all students that are biology students, 10 a day.
Yeah.
You make it $200 a day, right?
Yeah.
10 days, that's $2,000. In 30 days, that's $6,000, $72,000 a year.
Right.
Now it's just like, wow. I have one product that I created one time that has the potential to make that. And then you could scale because that's just off the product alone. Now let's say that you have a vlog/YouTube channel where all the biology students, all the biology students are coming to your channel for all the ins and outs of what it takes to be a successful biology student. And she can get like people who went through biology school that are in their fields and have them come on for a podcast type version, or she could just like interview them, or she could go in day in the life. She could do whatever. He or she could do whatever, right? To actually build that channel up. Now, if you have people that have certain products or items that they want that sect of people or that group, that customer avatar to be able to sell to, because you have the items, you have the eyeballs. Now people want to pay you sponsorship deals or brand deals. Hey, can you mention my product or my service on your YouTube channel? And you can do the same thing on Instagram and stuff like that. But you see how it was just birthed out of an idea?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And then she could go, and then she could just say, bio is my life, right? She gotta
Right.
come up with slogans and put on a print on demand shirt, so she doesn't even have to hold the inventory, right? She can go to Printify, or she can go to Teespring, and then, or she can go to Fiverr, come up with a design,
Oh
or she
yeah,
can
yeah.
use AI. She can go to Canva now, because Canva has, AI to where you could type an idea or actually draw a picture, and you can put it in Chat GPT, and it'll actually convert that picture that you drew on the paper into a logo, and you can just say, hey, no, I don't like this, modify it, let me see this, and now you have a logo yourself that you could put on your t-shirt and put on Teespring. Now, just like with Amazon, every time they pack, ship, print, and send the book out and you get a percentage, Teespring or print on demand stores like Printify, they'll be able to, people can go to your site, choose the size, choose the color, it goes to them, and then after they sell it, you'll get the proceeds. You'll get whatever's left over after their cut. And it's
Yeah.
just like, you
It's
can
so
literally
easy, right.
make money in your sleep off an idea. Like sometimes people overcomplicate it, but because of technology and the systems that are leveraged out there now, you can just have an idea. And even if you don't have an idea, you can use AI and just say, hey,
Throw me
give me
something.
some
Give me something.
ideas
Right.
and show me the strat. Give me some ideas on this and give me the best ways to be able to market it. With $0, right? You can
$0,
put
yeah.
qualifiers in there because now they're like, okay, how can I sell this product on a mass scale with $0 budget?
Yep.
It's gonna give you some ideas, and this is like,
Yeah.
isn't that crazy?
It is crazy because the funny thing is that I did everything that you mentioned already.
I know. So see, there's proof of concept. So it's not like we're talking theory. We're talking like I've done it, you've done it. We're talking
Yeah.
about things that we've actually done,
Yeah.
and that can be done. And it wasn't hard. Like
It's
I
not.
ain't the smartest jack in the box, but when I find out a few times and I learn it, then I got it. I won't
Yep.
forget it. And then you have to be open minded enough to be able to learn from others. I think that's the only way you can get better is if you're open to getting better.
Yeah, and trying out, and I think because in school they only teach you to be successful all the time, every time, and we fail the students by treating them that way. And I think that's a disservice, at least from the education side of the house, that, granted, there are some fields you can't fail, but you can experiment. That's why they got cadavers or whatever that people donate their bodies to science, is because they need to practice. So when they go out to real world applications, they know exactly what's going on.
Absolutely, because if you think of like a rocket when it's going to its destination is off course 90% of the time,
Yeah.
and it just course corrects. We just have to remember there is no failure, only feedback. There are no losses, only lessons.
I
And
like
when we
that.
keep that in
I like
mind,
that.
when we keep that in mind, then we'll just see the end goal, knowing that we'll probably have to pivot and adjust along the way as expected, right? I always talk about Thomas Edison. It was like, wow, it took you 1,000 times, 10,000 times to come up with an incandescent light bulb. He's like, yeah, but now I know 999 or 9,999 ways of it, how it won't work, right?
Right.
And so he was so successful because he figured out enough ways that things wouldn't work, that now everything that he does works because he's learned from his mistakes so many times. And so one of Google's philosophies is fail forward fast, right? So it's just like, okay, let's get everything out of the way that won't work so that we can get to our destination of success much faster. And so when you have that philosophy, it's just like you only take things like you only take failure as feedback or losses as lessons. It's like, oh, okay, that didn't work. Okay, let me see how I can do this better the next go round. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's a good way, because now that we pretty much went through all the three phases of your book, which brings us up to the third segment of the show, which is the futures. What skills or habits that you feel that you need to take you to the next level?
Oh, personally, just being able to leverage systems. Leverage systems. Like I'm at a point now where, so my son, I told you he before the call that he has severe autism. He's nonverbal and he has a lot of challenges, and so there are a lot of things that he needs my time for, right? And so because there are a lot of things you could do to make money, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, some things take a lot of time. Like your physical time and your physical presence. Even if he's with me, it's like it takes a lot of time. So now it's all a matter of creating things, taking a lot of time up front to build a system or to build something, even if I'm leveraging not just systems or through software and things like that, but people as well, right? Like if people can benefit and they get a certain piece of the pie or a certain payout for doing a certain activity, but it doesn't take my presence, then I'm now able to create that, all right? And so that's one of my focuses is like, cause he's getting older now and things are going to be different, right? He'll be done with school in a few years, and I have to think about how that's going to look. Right. And so that's another one of my reasons why I do what I do now. Right. And why I'm pivoting. Right. Because, I've been blessed to where now my business is paying me much more, than it was before. Right. Like it's paying me more than, I work at a college. Right. I'm over my own department. Well, depending on when you're watching this, because lately I've been asked to do a lot of different activities where, I have I have a show coming out. I don't know how much I can talk about it, but I got a show that I'm.
You just say you got a show coming out.
I got a show coming out, so depending on when you watch it. So after it come out, I'm gonna come back on the show. We can talk about it, okay? Because then be like,
we do a live show. We do a live show.
We can talk about it now, okay? So then I can tell you all about that. But I'm excited about that. So things like that, or if I'm asked to come and speak at a conference and things like that, and it's not like all the time, but like the moments that I am, then a lot of those, and then with my business itself, like I work with clients, the parents and the students, it's like I want to be able to focus all of my time on that. Right now it's leveraged because I do group coaching. So I have my coaches that work with me, they do the one-on-ones, with the essays and stuff, but then I also do group coaching once a week, and then the recordings are documented. So I have like a 3-month, 12-week program, but then they have access to a year. So when I'm doing that, it's still leveraged because I'm only focusing all my efforts one day a week for that time slot, right? And it's leveraged to where it's paying me more than my job, so it's just like if I didn't have the job, I look at the job like another stream of income, right?
Right.
And until at this point, it's just like until it gets in the way of what my purpose I feel is and my business as a whole, then I'll just continue it, because it works. I have a passion because I work at a university and the students have access to me. It's just like if I wasn't getting paid for what I'm doing, I would still do what I'm doing. And it's really for them and planting the seeds of how they can avoid a lot of mistakes I made coming up. Right. And so that's why I enjoy doing what I do. Like I have access to them. They have access to me. I get real time feedback and I get to see real time changes. Like how priceless is that? Right. So like it's a dream job. Like why it aligns with everything that I do as far as helping young people get the building blocks they need to succeed. And so that's why I'm still there, right? Like I'll probably work there for free and just volunteer, I ain't gonna tell them that, but I'm just saying that's how much I enjoy working there, right? Like it's not about the money anymore. I appreciate the money, but it's not about the money anymore. So that's my focus right now, like leveraging systems to be able to scale. And still make the biggest impact while making the most amount of money with the least amount of time and effort.
Right.
Like that's the perfect formula. Some people are just like, well, if you shouldn't feel good unless you sweating blood, sweating tears while making the money, and you like, you got to put in the grunt work. You got to. Not if you don't have to, right?
If you want to get taxed.
For a moment of time. If you want to get taxed, right? It's like, there comes a certain point where you could just leverage your time. Like, so there's an example, and it's in the book too. I talk about it, but it's a guy I always talk about. His name was Earl Crowley. Earl Crowley was in the 60s at the time. He was a parking lot attendant at this, around the corner in this financial district. And he never made more than $12 an hour as a parking lot attendant. Never made more than $12 an hour. And he was a dyslexic. But one of the things that he did with his $12 an hour salary or, pay is that he took the extra money that he had and he put it in the right side of the quadrant. We talk about the cash flow quadrant. He put it into the investment quadrant. And then he invested in like blue chip stocks and all these different investments to where at the time of the recording of the video, you can actually YouTube it. It was in 2008. His portfolio was over $500,000.
Nice.
And now clearly it's, probably millions with an S at the end, but it's just like, he never made more than $12 an hour with his W-2 job, earned the income. He just took the extra amount and then he have the money make money. You have to be able to leverage people and systems and or money to make money on that right side of the quadrant. Because we're taught, go to school, get good grades,
Yep.
get a high paying job as an employee,
Yep.
or if we get tired of working for the man, then we
Just
work
get your own
as a
business.
self-employed. We are the business, right? But then the smart people say, no, we don't need to be the business where the business depend on us. We need to be able to leverage other people's time
Yeah.
and system to own the business, and then pay somebody to run the business for you,
That's
right?
it. Yeah, we're gonna have to have a whole nother discussion talking about buying businesses and leveraging those businesses. Whenever you decide to find that formula, let me know. We
Yeah,
can definitely have you
for
back
sure.
on because
Yeah.
it brought up the memory of Tim Ferriss' book, The 4 Hour Work Week. That book, so many resources.
Oh my goodness, that
That's a
guy was
staple.
ahead of his time. Because
Yeah.
I had read the book when it first came out, but I didn't realize how priceless the information was, man. Like if I fully understood what I had at the time, things would be different a lot faster, right?
Yeah,
I just appreciate how he was the forerunner and a trailblazer with his thought processes.
but
You
it
know?
goes to show that the seed was already planted. It just takes time for it to nourish.
Come on, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're like, it's okay. It was just the
Yeah.
seed that was planted. We going back
Yeah.
to the seed, sowing the seed and reaping the harvest. So yeah, that's that. Okay,
You just
I
didn't
like
have the
that.
tools yet. Like I said, it's two different skill sets to get that done. So
that's right.
Yeah,
I
man.
appreciate that. Made me feel better. You're like,
Yeah.
it was a seed that was planted, man. It just took a little time to grow. That's all.
Yeah. Anything you got before we dive into these final 4 questions?
No. Let's go, man. You
Okay,
and I
we
could
got
go
it.
and talk forever, man. We just like boom, bang,
Right.
boom.
Right.
You know. But now this is good stuff.
Awesome. All right. Number 1. What does wealth mean to you?
Oh, wow. Wealth means so you can be rich, have money, but lose it all, right? But wealth is being able to have your money make money and in a more leveraged way. Like wealth is about peace of mind, knowing that you can live the life you want to live without having to worry or stress about money. I think that's what true wealth is, because there's no quantifiable amount. Like there's no set amount. Say if you have this amount of money, you're wealthy. No, it's just a matter of whatever your dreams, hopes, and aspirations are, and the life you want to live. As long as you can live that life and not have to worry about money, you're wealthy.
Like it. Number 2. What was your worst money mistake?
Worst money mistake is not investing in myself early enough. Like not investing in my self-education. Like outside of school, like understanding the more valuable I am to others, the more value or the more money I can make, right? I mean, people, look, the thing is, if the value you have, and I believe I heard Myron Golden say it, but if the value you have is worth more than the money in someone's pocket, then they'll pay you that amount of money, regardless of how much it is.
True.
You have the value that you have is worth more than the money in their pocket. They're going to give it to you because they're going to trade your value, which is more valuable than. So let's say your value that you have is worth $2, and they have $1 in their hand. They're like, I'll give you this dollar for $2 worth of value, all day, every day.
Or they'll find a way to make that extra $2. Right.
Or they'll find a way to make the extra $2. Exactly, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Number 3. What is your favorite financial or non-financial book?
I think it still holds true. I mean, some people are controversial because of the person and his beliefs and the people he handled, but Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki really laid a huge foundation in the way I look at money, especially when it comes down to the cash flow quadrant. And then just building teams around ideas like your business or real estate and investing, like not being the expert, but having experts around you helping to build that wealth, right? He talks about his rich dad, who was his best friend's dad, and he barely graduated the 8th grade or grade school, and he ended up being the richest man in Hawaii because he surrounded himself with the people who are experts in their specific area to help him grow his idea. And I think just those concepts and what we just talked about with the cash flow quadrant, I think those are really good foundational principles when it comes to building wealth, right? Just understanding money and building wealth. So that's probably still, one of my favorite financial books.
Nice.
And then as far as non-financial, which kind of still ties into it, is I just reread it again. I read it often. Well, I guess it's 2. Because before it was like how to win friends and influence people.
Yep.
Like that really helps
Yeah,
you with
everybody
just
knows
your
that.
relationships and just dealing with people, in a non-defensive way. It's just like, okay, like it really breaks down the basic human psychology of why people do what they do and how you can relate to them. It's even if you've always had challenges with dealing with people, like that book, like one chapter alone is just on smiling,
It pretty
right?
much is, yeah.
One book is just on smiling and the effects it has on smiling when you enter a room. The first chapter is never telling somebody that they're wrong. You
Hmm.
know, it starts out the book with Two Gun Crowley, and he just did his mass murder. And he, in his letter before he died, said, "I don't feel I did anything wrong." You're like, this man was a mass murderer, and the cops were around him in the 1920s, and he don't feel like he did nothing wrong. So it's just like, if this man don't think he did nothing wrong, when you say something sideways, you know. Or somebody says something sideways, and in your mind, you're like, they're clearly wrong. Like you're wrong. Not necessarily talking about factual stuff, right? Like that the sky is blue, right? But like just how people feel and their opinions about something, or if they did something,
Hmm.
they the natural instinct is just to justify it. But how to win friends and influence people. But the book I just recently read again was the E Myth Revisited
Oh,
by
yeah.
Michael Gerber, because he talks about three types of people. E-Myth, talking about the entrepreneur myth, E-Myth. You got the entrepreneur, you got the manager, and you got the technician. 'Cause a lot of
Hmm.
times people will be the self-employed or the technician, even if they're working a job, and then they'll just grow up the scale and be this business owner, but they never really understood people,
Business.
leadership, and
Yeah.
systems to run the business. It was just this technician that ended up owning the business, right? And so now they're still a slave to their business because they don't know how to detach themselves.
Hmm.
And so that's one of the books that I really really enjoy to reread,
Nice.
because I always get something new and a different concept every time I read it or listen to it. I be on audiobooks like
Right.
crazy. Like I be driving somewhere and I'll get through like a book a week. 50 books a year on average.
Nice. Yeah, we have to share some book going back and forth. 'Cause I use my library card for the audiobooks because I do about the same.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get back to that because I used to do that. I need to go back. You don't put me on. I'm about to go back to the library. Because like, sir, why are you spending this much on your audiobooks when you can just go to the library for free?
Yeah, that's pretty much
Free game, right? Free, literally free game, right?
Hey,
Because
look,
you
we
get the
about
game from
that
the
wallet.
books.
You know what I'm saying? That's what
Yeah,
I
about
mean,
that wallet. Got the keys to the game.
Number 4. What is your favorite dish to make?
I call it a haystack, or it's a taco salad, right? Just get some tortillas and lettuce, tomatoes, black beans, onion, salsa, peach mango salsa, a little bit of cilantro, and sometimes I might get a little bit of ranch sour cream, mix that thing together, put some melted cheese on it.
Mm.
Sometimes I go dairy-free cheese, but nah, I live on the edge. I'll use the real cheese.
Yeah. You can't.
I've been a vegetarian since 2002, so I ain't all the way vegan, but I am
Right.
vegetarian since 2002. So I don't eat meat, but I'll make that thing, put that thing, let that thing melt right there on that heat on the black beans right there. Mix that thing up, ooh,
Right.
and it's an easy meal to put together that everybody can enjoy.
Not the
Um,
note.
Oh yeah,
Crack it and hit
ooh,
it.
that's how you know it's in. If you ain't doing that, then somebody ain't cooking right. Okay, somebody ain't doing. They ain't standing on business. Okay,
Right.
you gotta have that in every conversation somewhere somehow. If you ain't making that note, you ain't standing on business. Okay,
Gotcha.
yeah.
The very last question of the show, which is where could people find out more about you?
Oh, I just always point people to my IG. Go to the Finlit Guy. TheFinlit Guy. The Finlit Guy. The financial literacy guy was too long. So the Finlit Guy.
Yeah,
And then
gotcha.
you'll be able to find me. And then I got my links and all that stuff about my book and my coaching program. All that stuff is on there. But yeah, hit me up. If you have any questions about anything we talked about, I'm wide open, yeah.
Cool.
Just hit me up and I'll do my best as long as I have the time, and I'm because sometimes I get inundated with a lot of messages and I can't get to everybody, but I do my best to respond to every comment, respond to every DM and stuff like that. I do my best because I remember when I was the one just seeking information and I was trying to find out the keys. Like I would hit
Tell me
people
about
up,
it, yeah.
and especially if they had a large following, I was like, man, they're not gonna be able to have time for me. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's like if I have time, I try to put myself in the position I was in when I was first getting started on my journey. Right?
Yeah.
How would I want them to be toward me? So I try to keep that in mind, and then go from there. Yeah, but that's how you can reach out to me, the Finley guy on Instagram, and then all my other information's on there.
Cool. All right, Chris. Well, I actually say that I'm one of the very few people, or maybe you should have numbered these when he first got.
Yeah, you're one of
Yeah,
the first. You're
yeah.
literally,
Yeah.
literally. Because the
thought, yeah, you
the
signed
first
it.
shipment
Yeah, I
I
had
got.
I still got your date in there.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally. That was the day I got the book. I got the book that day.
September 9th, 2022.
The very first day I got my physical books, my first set of physical books in hand. I was at the FinCon conference. I had them shipped there because I know I wanted to have some there to give out to sell, and then it was just overwhelming love, man. Like you and just the community, the FinCon community, man. That's why I'll ever be indebted and grateful for the FinCon community. Because, you know, sometimes people be like, you know, because really, truth be told, it's not always about the sessions or even the presenters and stuff like that, but it's about the relationships you make.
Definitely.
You know, it's about being in the room and having the relationships like us, like we connected at VidCon, you know, and it's just like the conversations and the relationships you make outside of the conference, right? It's that when you go into lunch and we go into Top Golf, right? Man, you came out to support that too. Like, it's just, that's what it's all about, man. It's like the conference, that's just like a bonus or something on the side, but it's all about the relationship. So you are literally one of the first people to buy my book, man. And now, you know, I've been fortunate with organizations buying it, you know, tens of thousands of dollars, probably like $40,000. I got to look at the numbers again, you know, in sales since then. It might be more than that. And a lot of people in the FinCon community have reached out to other people and got the book in bulk. You know, it's like not one-off sale. A lot of people buy it individually, but you find like schools and nonprofits and organizations that they'll buy like $2,000 worth of it at a time, you know, or like $3,000 or like, you know, $1,500. And it's just amazing how you can come up with something one time and it pays you for life.
Yeah.
Like, that's the true definition of an asset, you know,
And
income producing asset.
It go back to, you know, you produce things with like 4 different times. So it's like you gotta think about it, speak about it, then you physically make it, and then like it's out there.
It's out there.
Yeah.
And then it's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there, man. And it's just like, and it's something, it's a piece of content that can pay you for life. And it's like, wow. Yeah. Like, you hear about these things, but when it actually happens, you're like, wow, you know? And so I knew I had one time to make a first impression. So it took me about 8 months to write it, because the way I did it was I thought about all the major questions that people would ask me, or the things I even wanted to know, or the things I wish I knew when I was younger, when I was a young guy just getting married, or when I was a college student, and like, I wish I knew all these things, and I would just list it in that format. I came up with a framework: find the money, budget the money, grow the money, right?
Right.
And then I would just list everything out in outline and just bullets. And then I would just come up with case studies and real stories of people I've worked with or stories I've read about, you know, through research, and just put it in there. Because even like Rich Dad Poor Dad, there's a lot of financial terms and principles in there, but we remember the stories, right? We remember the stories. We remember Rich Dad and Robert Kiyosaki and his friend, and wanted to make money. So then they took the nickel, the lead from the toothpaste things, made the coins, and said, we're making money, right? Or then you hear about the Velcro wallet business, right? And then how he went bankrupt with that because he didn't have the right protection or the right way to set up his business. Or you think about, you know, the real estate, or you think about him talking about Ray Kroc and McDonald's. You're not in the you're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business. So you hear about all these different stories and the principles and the of cash flow quadrant stuff, and it stays with you for life. Like, he wrote that in the 90s. Right. And he actually wrote the book to be a manual for the Cash Flow 101 game. You know, because he had the board game and then nobody was buying it. So then he was just like, well, let's come up with a manual that kind of illustrates the principles that we want people to get as they're playing the game. And then people started buying the book. The book became a bestseller. And then it was just like, oh yeah, well, we got this thing. We got a game over here. We got a game that we're really trying to push the book for people to buy. Right. And then he was able to sell the game on the back end after people understood the principles about the book. So
see, that's what I'm doing with my habit journal, because I was like, let me start off with the journal first, because like you said, it's low entry, just get something out there, and then I'm actually planning on writing a book to have it ready for FinCon this year.
Let's go. So yeah,
it's like I got all the elements. I just gotta put it together. But with AI, because AI
yeah.
makes you lazy, because that's the reason what's taking me so long. Because I'm like, I can just easily type this in and be
Yeah,
done.
just like boop boop.
Right.
Give me some ideas on what I could talk about in this chapter. Well,
Right.
here go a couple bullets on the things you could talk about.
Well,
You're like,
actually, it's a little easier now with AI because instead of me doing that, saying like talking this point, because I have a podcast, it already has a transcript. So
yeah.
I could just use my own words and just
Yes.
say, hey, write a chapter on this for me.
this chapter on this, and you can
It's
pull
my
from
own
so
content.
much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's my own content.
Oh man, yeah.
But like I said, we could talk about leverages.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. That is a whole nother conversation. So yeah, man, thank you for having me, man. I enjoyed the conversation.
That's
I
awesome.
always like when we get together and we chop it up about just life and money and business and all of that, because it just helps, not reinvigorate us. It motivates us. It helps us fine tune our thought processes. All of that. Or at least it helps me.
So this is therapy for me. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Because I don't got nobody else out there.
right. That don't get it, right? It's like
Right,
some
right.
people you talk to about this stuff, they're like, what?
What? Right.
You know what I mean? But then you talk to your
Like, you
people,
got a
they're
book?
like,
Why you got a
"Oh, let's
book?"
go.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, So, yeah, I appreciate it, bro.
No problem, man. Thank you so much again, everybody. Make sure y'all go pick up his book. It's called Financial Literacy 101 for College Students: How to Find Money, Budget Money, and Grow Money. We talked about all three topics in this episode, so you definitely need to get the book to get more content out of it. Remember, this is just a seed that's being planted. You might not be able to have everything to harvest it right now, but you're going to get it. So just keep it there and, trust the process. So thank you again, everybody. Y'all be safe. I'm out. Peace.